Hello there friends and welcome. For today's Warhammer Rogue Trader guide we have a very special build for Jae. And we'll be going as a dual pistols gunslinger capable of not only amazing area of effect damage through either plasma weapons or even deadly pistol bursts, with of course great capacity for single target pistol shots as well. Jae is actually one of the strongest party members, just like Cassia, by virtue of her unique gunslinger talent, which lets her attack with her offhand dual wielded pistols for free, including the costliest attacks such as area of effect, plasma and burst, which means she can get loads and loads of attacks going even during normal turns when not buffed by a heroic action. But of course we also excel at generating high momentum and resolve for easy heroic action spammage when needed, with loads of extra turns and extra attacks. So without further ado, let us get into our Jae dual gunslinger build. Jae comes at level 16, which means you cannot respec her out of her starter officer choices at all, unless using a mod. At first I thought she was pretty bad because, well, she doesn't bother picking any of the best officer abilities, such as for example, the highly powerful Seize the Initiative should always act first before enemies, even stuff like Air of Authority, one of the best officer powers. Thankfully, her unique talents, especially Gunslinger, are so good that they more than make up for that, but there's also Code Trader's Acumen for loads of different bonuses, depending on how high your faction reputation is, with each of the factions of course. Ideally Fellowship of the Void for more critical hits chance. Anyways, from level 16 onwards, the way to go if you want to have the best Jae for damage and buffing is Master Tactician. Press the Advantage is one of the easiest way of achieving enormous extra damage, around 300% plus, even at the beginning of the game, when you first recruit her. And of course you have a lot of other powerful abilities for more damage, more momentum, more extra turns, more buffing and so on. Starting with your first Master Tactician power at level 17. There's two ways this can go. My preferred pick is Fervor. It doesn't cost any AP at all. As a matter of fact, the only cost is some hit points, but you can always make up for that through temporary hit points instead. And well, it is one of the easiest ways of generating your most important resource, that is, stacks of tactical advantage, without having to kill enemies first. Since all of your powerful abilities rely on tactical advantage, the more, the better for higher bonuses, Fervor is really good. You can of course already start with Inspire if you prefer, which is one of the best ways of increasing your flat damage. But once again, it requires stacks of tactical advantage for the best effect, so I'd rather Fervor first. For the first Master Tactician talent, this is pretty simple. If you've watched my officer builds, then you know In the Hero's Footstep is definitely the way to go. With this, whenever Jae or any other ally uses a heroic action, she will get an extra turn. It doesn't matter if it comes with an action points limitation, because guess what? Her Gunslinger talent makes her second pistol attack cost 0 AP anyways. The same for the pair holster gear, as I'll show later on. Level 19 means your Master Tactician heroic action. It's garbage, don't bother with it, at least when compared to Officer's Finest Hour anyways, which is what you always want to use. Level 20 means plus 1 AP, great. And for your stat upgrades you also have two options. Ballistic skill only if you don't have any other officer ally to buff her. And well, you can always rely on Cassia for that, as a story party member. Otherwise, go with Fellowship, which actually increases most of her skills. Jae is quite a skill monkey. Plus of course, some of her Master Tactician and Officer abilities, so I prefer going with this. Then more Fellowship, and for our 21 talent, there's actually a lot of powerful stuff here, but my preferred pick early is Dawn of Victory. Every critical hit you score up to 3 times per turn will give you momentum equal to half your resolve. The faster you can generate momentum as Jae, well, the faster you get Officer's Finest Hour, which is what really gets the combo of any unfair party going. And it's pretty easy for her to get criticals because of her massive area of effect attack potential through either plasma weapons or pistol burst. Then it's time to pick Inspire at last for even more damage, and she can use this to buff herself. Ideally after Fervor, of course. And for the next talent, well, either Nerves of Steel so that whenever you get momentum or any ally, you always gain +1 more. Great because it stacks the more Master Tacticians you have with this. But if you want to get started into loads of extra damage, go with stacking the deck instead. Whenever you spend Tactical Advantage, you will get a +1% stacking bonus to critical damage for every stack spent. Jae excels at generating them, so later you can easily get higher than 100% from this alone. For her skills, this is going to depend on what other skills your party member is already covering for you. She is meant, however, for both High Lore, Imperium, and also Commerce, her most important dialogue skill, quite thematic for her as well, which is why I'll be picking this here. Once you max Fellowship, it's time to increase ballistic skills from more to hit chance and critical hit chance with ranged weapons. For our first generic talent at level 24, I really like Plasma Weapon Proficiency, and the reason is simple. While she already comes with Drukhari Weapon Proficiency and dual burst pistols, you can't really guarantee that all the enemies in the burst area will be hit. On the other hand, Plasma Weapons do have both area of effect options that hit all enemies inside, and even a stronger single target hit that you can select at will. So I think it really complements her burst potential quite nicely. As for level 25, I would just pick Nerves of Steel for even more momentum generation, then more commerce, and more ballistic skill. The second volley upgrade doesn't matter, just pick whatever you want because you'll never be using it. For our level 28 talent, Personal Involvement. Every enemy killed by you will increase your resolve by +1 until the end of combat, and yes, you can pick this earlier if you prefer, instead of stacking the deck or Dawn of Victory. Once you max Commerce, go for Lore, Imperium, or whatever else skill you want. Then I'd recommend you increase Agility, as it can help with her dodge and also Initiative, as she can't really pick the Seize the Initiative feat to act first as an officer. For another generic talent, Ready to Serve for even more resolve. And speaking about extra resolve, it's time to go for Linchpin, which does the same, based on tactical advantage stacks. Something fun you can pick at the next level is Undisputed Advantage, which makes it so the attack buffed by pressing advantage will automatically ignore, cover, and dodge. If you have another officer to buff you, it's not really that needed early. I'd much rather the abilities that increase your tactical stacks now, such as Hidden Advantage, which makes them always work as if you had more stacks of tactical advantage equal to your Fellowship bonus, much higher in combat when buffed of course. Then more Agility and more Lore Imperium. For level 33, against all odds, so you start combat with more stacks of tactical advantage equal to the number of enemies. Usually you're fighting 10 plus enemies in this game per battle. Then more Agility, and for the last generic talent, you can kinda pick anything you want. I would just go for more Agility. But Plasma Weapon Expert also works. And anything for last volley. And that's it for Master Tactician progression. Now let's cover Exemplar progression. As always, we want the damage boosters, starting with Extermination for more flat damage. Just remember, when you use burst or plasma area attacks, it only counts as one attack, but eventually you can add enough, especially since you can also use your pistols for single target shots. We can at long last pick a good officer talent. Sadly, it's bugged at the moment and you cannot pick Seize the Initiative as an Exemplar talent, so you might as well go with Steel Resolve, well, for even more resolve, and more momentum and heroic actions. For level 37, whatever skills you want, I'll just be increasing more commerce. And we of course still want more good Master Tactician talents, so let's go with Joint Offensive. Whenever you hit an enemy, you'll get a +1 stack of tactical advantage, and well, you can hit loads of them. Yes, you can also pick this earlier if you want. It's just that, like I said, there's a lot of good Master Tactician stuff. And usually, you'll want to spend tactical advantage before attacking. Then back into Fellowship upgrades, and I'll just be going with It Will Not Die here, but it's not really necessary for Jae. Still, the more hit points the better. And at long last we can finally pick the Air of Authority power, one of the best officer abilities, for more resolve. Then more commerce. Or something fun you can increase during the exemplar levels is more lore Xenos, as she does have a lot of ranks into this. For the second exemplar talent at 40, the classic Cataclysm, for more damage the more enemies you hit. Then you might as well pick Unwavering Motivation to increase the power of your Inspire. It's just that usually I prefer to have other officers buff her with Inspire instead, so that you have more stacks for press the advantage and more damage through that. Then back into Fellowship, and... well, you might as well pick Focus, amazing for officers, but ideally in the first 15 levels that she can't be respect out of. Any other Master Tactician power, you already have the best ones, might as well go for Assign Objective or Finish the Job. And a +5 to Fellowship, of course. After that, go for Heroic Inspiration, so that the first ability you use after the first Heroic Act in combat will cost 0 action points until the end of combat. For the next talent, I just go with Undisputed Advantage because we have the space for it now. And anything else you want for another generic one. No Heresy can work, for example, as at this point you'll be fighting lots of Xenos and Demons. Or even stronger together for more Fellowship to your whole party besides Jae herself. Then more Lore Xenos, and for our last exemplar talent as far as level 45 progression, either Deadly Aim for more damage or Degraded Defense for the same purpose. And that's it for level 45. Now let's do a quick section on how to play as our dual gunslinger Jae. First, if you plan on using plasma pistols, because both the area of effect and also the stronger single target variant will overheat the plasma weapon, which means you'll deal damage to allies nearby, it's best to have your Jae properly set in formation so that she starts somewhat away from allies. 1 cell square is more than enough. That is, allies that are 1 cell away from her will be damaged whenever a plasma weapon overheats. If they are more than 1 cell square away, they will be fully safe. The main reason to bother with formation is that some battles, like this one we are about to fight here, will have you start ambushed by enemies, which means, of course, you can't properly prepare your position before battle starts. For the other ones, well, just have her start away from allies. As always, it's best if you start by buffing her with an officer ally, as she can't really cast some buffs on herself like Voice of Command and Air of Authority, which you won't get access to until, well, level 36 plus. By just casting these 2 powers on her, well, she'll get a highly increased ballistic skills for more to hit and also critical hit chance with ranged weapons including burst and plasma, and more perception for less enemy dodge. Once your Jae's turn comes, it doesn't matter if it's an extra turn or a normal turn because her abilities will work regardless. You will always want to first activate Fervor, which will already enhance your stacks of tactical advantage. What about the Fervor hit point costs? Well, by just having 1 ally with the Invigorating Resolve Talisman you can buy from the Explorators faction, your allies, including Jae, will constantly get more temporary hit points, which will work as a way of paying for the cost without getting dangerously low in hit points and getting injuries as well. Then you want to activate Press the Advantage to start increasing your damage. After that, it's time for your area of effect attacks. I prefer to start with Plasma and the Overcharge area attack variant, because, well, you can hit more enemies at once this way, especially after you drag them close together with Cassia's Point of Curiosity ability. So let's attack. Ideally, the more enemies you get together, the better.
Don't get too caught.
You will, of course, already kill some trash early on, and chances are you'll be at high momentum already, because of her huge resolve when buffed. But anyways, you don't have to activate your heroic action yet, because you can still keep attacking because of her Gunslinger talent. So let's go for another plasma weapon attack. to target more enemies. It will do less damage because press the advantage only works for the following attack. But guess what, we can do it one more time by virtue of the pair holster gear. So let's finish by killing these two enemies. Sometimes you can even do more, despite not being buffed the finest hour, so just start hitting more enemies. Once you run out of attacks is when you want to activate finest hour, ideally on Cassia because of how powerful she is. She can after all use Lidless Stare again to, well, deal even more damage to multiple enemies. You can do whatever else you want with her, but the good thing is, once you pass her turn, it will automatically go back to Jae because of the In the Hero's Footstep talent we rushed for during build progression. And well, it's just a matter of doing the same. Activate Fervor again.
Don't get too cocky.
Then more press the advantage. If you have more AP, you might as well also get started with Inspire. Then press the advantage, and just start by unleashing your powerful attacks once more. Now let's cover gear for our Jae, starting with second chapter choices, which is exactly when you recruit her. For the helmet, the classic face of the Sovereign is the way to go if you want her to be your main damage dealer. After all, it's +1 resolve whenever you kill an enemy. For Jae, especially this build as Master Tactician, it is super easy to achieve very high resolve, as you have a lot of boosts to it, and the more resolve, the more momentum, so she can of course, right at her turn, immediately cast the best heroic action, Finest Hour, on an ally of choice. The Peripheral Visor is another nice choice, but I don't think it's working at all at the moment, it's bugged. But anyways, whenever you spend 10 stacks of tactical advantage, it's supposed to provide you with an extra resolve. For armor, anything goes, so long as it doesn't reduce your dodge, like the Sin skin from chapter 1 if you want. For decent enough armor score and more dodge. For accessories, the most important one of them all is the pair holster. Once per turn, whenever you score a critical hit with a pistol, super easy with this build, the next attack with a pistol will cost 0 AP, and guess what? It will stack. With Jae's unique Gunslinger talent. Besides that, you have a few options for the remaining accessory slot. The Metronome can help by constantly increasing her stats if you don't plan on moving much with her. But there's also the Heart of the Nameless, because it will increase not only her lore Xenos by +10, and she does excel at that, but also all of her skills by a further +10, as she is one of the only 2 good aligned party members. Another very powerful option, and actually my preferred pick once you get high enough reputation with the Explorers faction, is the Portative Manipulator. With this, reload will now cost -1 AP, which for Jae means 0 AP on pistol reloads. After all, they only cost 1 AP by default, which of course has amazing synergy with her burst pistol attacks, because pistols don't tend to have high ammo capacity. So you drain around half your ammo with one burst. But who cares, you can just keep reloading them, the same for plasma guns at no cost. For gloves, if you like using burst, you might as well use the recoil gloves, which reduces your recoil by 50%, but the pistols don't tend to have high recoil by default. If you want to leave this to another character like a full burst user, like Argenta, you can use the sniper gloves instead for more damage and more critical chance on single shots. For cloaks, my preferred pick early is the Mantle of Heroism, once again because she is a good aligned character, and well, it will increase your dodge by 20% for each heroic act for a maximum of 60. Very easy to achieve with our Jae build. For boots, my preferred pick is actually the Skirmisher boots, so that whenever you deal damage to an enemy, you'll have 20% chance of getting 2 MP, which of course can help during extra turns where you cannot move, for more bursts or line of sight with your pistol weapons, which tend to have lower range by default. As Officer and Master Tactician, they don't really have any movement abilities unlike Soldier, Warrior and so on. Now, as far as Act 2 weapons, well, you can actually keep her starter dual pistols for bursts, the Shuriken pistol and also the Splinter pistol. They have decent enough damage considering how high you can increase it through all sorts of modifiers, and great rate of fire, 7 and also 6. Once you hit around level 24 with this build, however, you'll get Plasma Weapon Proficiency. So ideally for your second weapon slots, you want to equip first a Plasma Pistol on the offhand because I have lower damage, and on the main hand, the Retobi Pattern Plasma Pistol for higher damage of course. So it's dual plasmas for area of effect, and dual Drukhari pistols for burst. Now let us cover Act 3 and 4 choices. The biggest upgrades are for your weapons. You can of course change her starter Drukhari pistols for dual Cabal Splinter pistols. They don't have as high rate of fire but more base damage, and you can of course increase the rate of fire during Act 4 through the Tempestus Carapace Elite Backpack. Besides that, the Stabilizer Bracers for plus 20% critical damage and more ballistic skill, but you can also go with the Commander's Gloves if you prefer to leave the bracers for someone else, as at the end of your turn you'll get amounts of tactical advantage equal to the number of enemies you hit during your turn. Well, that's a lot for Jae, with either Plasma Area of Effect attacks or of course Pistol Bursts that she can spam. The Duelist uniform is also an amazing armor upgrade, because it is exactly made for dual pistol wielders, as it will provide you with plus 10 ballistic skill and plus 10 hit chance, even higher dodge, so long as your ballistic skill is higher than 70, pretty easy to achieve with this build, from buffs or gear. And of course you'll want to replace your normal plasma pistol with the Soul Pattern Plasma Pistol for the highest base damage, for of course more area of effect, and overcharge damage for single targets. For consumables is just a classic Scorcher to reset cooldown and get more AP, and of course Stim for more AP and movement points. Well, alright friends, so this was it from my Jae Dual Gunslinger build. If you found this guide useful as always, please remember to like, subscribe, and also consider becoming a channel member if you can. I truly appreciate your support. Thank you for watching and see you next time, friends.